Did you know, just a couple of years ago, it seemed like Pep Guardiola was the best thing to happen to football from a coach's point of view, but the world seems to be moving past the era of Pep and straight into that of Xabi Alonso. Of course, Alonso is not on Pep's level yet, and is definitely not a replacement for the Manchester City manager. But the young manager appears to be revolutionizing football. The football world currently knows Alonso as a great coach, but the man at the helm of affairs at Bayer Leverkusen did not make his name as a football manager. He came into the limelight as a player. Alonso was not just any player. He was one of the best of his generation, and was famous for his unreal passing range. And Liverpool fans will never forget him for this. The football world was comfortable with him being a great player, and no one expected him to bring more to the game after hanging his boots. But the Spaniard had a different plan. What did Xabi do after hanging his boots? Xabi could have walked out of the pitch and into the boardroom. He obviously had the funds and the connections to. However, the man whose father went from playing football to becoming a coach seemed basically interested in following in his father's footsteps. Xabi grew up around football. He, alongside his brother, spent the weekends playing with their father. As much as this was a lot of fun for him, he learned things which perhaps he had no idea he was learning. This could be the reason he is different from some of his contemporaries, who were great players but awful coaches. Alonso might be remembered as a Liverpool player, but he did not start his career in England. His football career started at Real Sociedad. He made his debut for the senior team quite early, and had a couple of great years with this team before travelling to England to play alongside Steven Gerrard. It was at Liverpool he won the most important trophy in Europe, against all odds. He moved back to Spain as a Madrid player, and here he won some more trophies. Alonso had already cemented his name as an all-time great, after playing for two of the biggest clubs in Europe. But he wasn't quite done. He went on to play for the biggest team in Germany, and under Guardiola, who is arguably the best football manager of his generation, he won some more trophies, and finally quit the game in 2017. Life after 2017. Xabi Alonso could have taken a break from football for a while. But he spent his first year as an ex-footballer learning all he needed to know about coaching and getting the necessary certifications. And with this, he metamorphosized from a player to a tactician. Just like his football career that started away from the prying eyes of the media, Xabi thought it was best to start his coaching career from the grassroots. So he was back to Spain and took up a job as Real Madrid's under-13 team coach. It didn't seem like there was a lot at stake with the under-13 team, but Alonso gave the world a glimpse of what he could be. His team had a season-long unbeaten run. This might not be the most impressive news about a young football manager. Nonetheless, Alonso had a lot up his sleeves. Xabi spent just one season with the Madrid under-13 team, before moving on to a fresh challenge. His next stop was Real Sociedad, where he began his football career. He was in charge of the B team, and ended the season in the number 5 position with this team. Everyone that has followed Alonso's coaching career knows he did very well with the Real Sociedad B team. However, not many people know exactly why he seems so effortlessly successful. You see, while at Real Sociedad, Alonso used a football pattern that involves rapid counter-attacks, high pressing and ball retention. This pattern was very effective. Nonetheless, it didn't keep his team from being relegated the next season. Planet Football could have blamed Xabi for his team's relegation, but the Spaniard had already made it clear that he had a great understanding of the game of football. At this point, it was clear Xabi had paid his dues in youth football, and it was time to take on a more serious position. Alonso could have joined Borussia Mönchengladbach, as that was the first club that seemed interested in working with. The board liked his passion and wanted him in charge. This looked like a good deal. Also, it was clearly the best thing that had happened to Xabi at the time. Strangely, he did not accept this offer. For a moment, it didn't seem like Xabi was being smart, but the former Liverpool player knew exactly what he was doing. You see, Alonso had given the world a glimpse of what he could offer. There were quite a number of teams interested in hiring him. So he was basically taking his time. Alonso stayed a while without a team, and months after he turned down an offer to join Borussia, he put pen to paper and took over the coaching job at Bayer Leverkusen. Working as Bayer Leverkusen's manager, Xabi was handling a big team for the first time in his life, and that was definitely a promotion. Sadly, lots of people thought joining Bayer Leverkusen was not something he should have done. Right now, with the results he has gotten with Bayer Leverkusen, there are no questions about his decision. But when he accepted this job, Bayer Leverkusen was 17th on the table, had fired a couple of coaches under 2 years, and he could have been the next to be fired. As bad as being 17th in the league was, this team had won just 1 game out of 8, so it didn't look like a team that anyone that wanted to build a perfect coaching career would want to handle. Alonso could see things that other people couldn't. Of course, Bayer Leverkusen was not good at the time. He knew they could get better. Also, since this team was struggling, it was a perfect team for him to try out his new football ideology with. As much as developing a unique brand of football was important to Xabi in the long run, in the moment, he had to move his team from the danger zone. Right now, the world believes in Alonso, but that was not the case when he became the manager at Bayer Leverkusen. Even the team's board of directors were not sure he could do a great job. You might want to blame them. But these guys had fired a couple of coaches before him, in a short while too, so there was no guarantee Xabi was going to be different. When it seemed like Alonso had to prove a point to the world, one person had already believed in him long before he became a relatively respected coach. You probably believe in him too, and that's why you're watching this video. But don't just watch. Kindly like and share this video if you're enjoying it so far. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Moving on, the special one had worked with Alonso at Madrid. Also, he knew a little about the Spaniard's background. He was aware his father was a manager and used to be a player too. Mourinho knew Xabi had the foundation to be a great manager. Apart from playing under him, he had played under Carlo Ancelotti, Benitez and Guardiola. So he had basically learned from the best. Mourinho's perception of Alonso probably doesn't mean much to you, but when a man as blunt as the special one sings anyone's praise, you might want to have some respect for that person. Against all odds and contrary to expectations, Xabi won his first match in charge of Bayer Leverkusen by 4 goals to nothing, and Schalke 0-4 were the victims. This scoreline was great, but what was even bigger is that no other Bayer Leverkusen coach has been able to win a match with such a high margin in their debut game. Alonso's first match in charge of Bayer Leverkusen was a big win, but it seemed like light before a long tunnel when he lost his next 4 games. He was just getting started, but his critics found their voice and simply categorized him as a great player that will never make it to the big leagues as a coach. If there was going to be a change, Xabi knew he had to make a vital change. But first, he had to identify the problem. After a couple of matches, Xabi realized the team's high pressing was a major challenge. Although it looked good, it wasn't impressive. So he made the team focus on keeping the ball instead. And that was it. He transformed the team to a force in Germany. Things were beginning to look good, but the Spaniard was just getting started. When Xabi took over, Bayer Leverkusen was associated with a 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2 formation. He felt this formation did not produce the results, so he switched to a 3-4-3 when with the ball and a 5-2-3 when off the ball. The season ended with Bayer Leverkusen moving from number 17 in the league to number 6. Although they couldn't get a spot in the Champions League, they were back to winning ways and could dream of what life in the Champions League will be like. Alonso's first season in charge of Bayer Leverkusen was great. However, he still had a lot to prove, and he was starting the season with them for the first time. Bayer Leverkusen had decent players, and it didn't seem like they needed extra legs initially. Well, some of his players felt they needed fresh challenges elsewhere. At the end of his first season at Bayer Leverkusen, Alonso released Moussa Diaby, Paulinho, and Mitchell Bakker. These guys were replaced by Alejandro Grimaldo, Jonas Hoffmann, Arthur Granit Xhaka, and Victor Boniface. Xabi did not have access to a lot of funds. This could have been a problem, but he knew just what to do. He didn't go for the most prominent players on the continent. He simply settled for players that fit into his game plan. Although Alonso brought in lots of players, it appeared Victor Boniface is the best deal he got. The attacker is in red-hot form. He's played so well that he was awarded the Bundesliga Rookie of the Month. This is great. Interestingly, he got this award for 3 consecutive months. What does the future hold? Bayer Leverkusen under Alonso are playing very good football, but it is really not all about the type of football they play. The ultimate results matter. This is something Xabi knows too well, so he is focused on getting his team their first trophy in about 3 decades. He has succeeded in keeping them above water. And if you think dragging Bayer Leverkusen was difficult, finishing as a champion in any competition they are in will actually be a lot more difficult. Will Alonso give Bayer Leverkusen their first trophy in decades? Or will he leave like Unai Emery after a couple of seasons at Arsenal?